Hello, I'm Matt and welcome to Badger Workshop. Now I've got this accurate way of making cuts, I want to be able to use the router with it. So I want to make a way for it to run along the guide rail. I got some 3mm MDF, which is the same thickness as the rail itself, and then I got some 6mm MDF, which is as tall as the raised bits. I need a little strip to go into the channel though, so I measured that with the calipers and then we can cut it out. This is my first project with this bench, using the Axminster UJK parf dogs. They're pretty simple to use. First I put a couple in the holes and butt the piece up to it. Put a third dog 90 degrees to them and tighten it down. I can then use these two dogs to reference the track off. I've got these UJK technology clips as well to keep the track in place. I can then slide the workpiece under the track and line it up with my pencil line, and then just for a bit of extra security I'm going to clamp it in place. So this is the moment of truth, making my first cut with this new system. So the little slither fits into the track. I want it to be a nice tight fit, but to move freely. I need a larger piece to go over the top of that and hang over the edge of the rail so I can attach the router to it. I now don't need to reset up the dogs or the track, I can just slide the next piece under and make the cut. This build really just involves lots of bits of MDF glued together, but I'm going to take my time and glue each piece individually so I can get each piece aligned properly. This first little piece just goes flush with the end, and then I can get lots of clamps on and leave it to dry. Just got to make sure I don't drop the whole thing on the floor. When that glue's set, I just have another little test to make sure it's still running freely. Then I need another piece of 6mm to go on top of the track, and then a piece of 3mm to go against the track and just lift the thing off the bench. As you can see, all these pieces are too long at the moment, and I could have spent the time and cut them to size and then try and line them up perfectly, but I'm just going to glue them up big and then come back and trim them to the same length later. So to start with, I'm just gluing this top piece in place. The bottom piece is just there to hold it up, and then I'm going to get some weights on and leave it to dry. These bits of railway line are some of the most useful tools in my shop. I use them to weigh things down, and I use them as an anvil all the time. Just don't want to drop them on your feet. So when that's dry, I can then just glue that small 3mm thick piece into place. And then get the weights back on, and I'll leave this overnight. Okay, it's the next day, and now I've got a hat on. I can now use the dogs on the track again just to clean up all the edges and get everything nice and level. I was worried this sled might pop off the track, so I want to keep pressure on it, so I need a handle. I'm roughly going to work out how big it needs to be around my hand and just very roughly freehand draw it. As you can tell, I'm terrible at freehand drawing. Good old masking tape is always handy to help get the curves. So I can then get this cut out on the bandsaw. This is from a bit of 18mm MDF, so it's got a bit of thickness to it. It was reasonably rough off the bandsaw, so I used the spindle sanders to clean it up, because I don't want it to be uncomfortable to hold on to. For a bit of extra comfort, I'm just going to round over the edges using the router. In my next shop, I am definitely building a router table. I position the handle roughly where I want it to go, and then I can draw around the base of it so I know where to drill the holes. I then drill the holes through from the top. I can then flip the piece over and countersunk the holes at the bottom so the screw heads won't be rubbing against the track. I put a couple of screws in and just get them so they're poking out a couple of mils above the top of it. I can then take the handle and press it against those screws to just mark out where the screws are going to poke through into the handle. I'm doing this because I just don't want to screw straight into the MDF, as I probably would end up splitting it, so I want to drill a couple of pilot holes first. Again, my new bench and clamp coming in handy to do this. The handle can now be glued and screwed into place. I'm thinking I'll be able to have one hand on the handle and the other hand on the router to keep even pressure on it as it goes along the track. But we'll see. This is very much an experiment, and this is go one at this, and I can imagine that I'll learn a few things and have another go later. Right, we're about time to actually attach the router to it. I've seen other sleds that attach the router using the rail system, but I thought I'd try something else. My router has 3 holes in the top. You could take the base off and screw in using the threaded inserts, but then each time I want to change the router I've got to take the base off and put screws in, and that sounded like a bit of a pain. Most routers have some spare holes in the base so you can attach them to things, so I'm just drilling down about 10mm with this 8.5mm bit. Then I can screw in these M6 insert nuts. This should mean each time I want to attach the router it's only 3 little bolts. So now we can see if I've got everything lined up properly. I'll just stick a bolt in each hole and position it over the nuts. Amazingly, they're lined up perfectly and can be all tightened down. I found a bit with a point on it, and then I could mark out the centre where the bits are going to go through the board. I could just plunge around a bit through it, but every bit's a different size, so I thought I'd just drill the hole out using a hole saw. And that's it all finished. So, I didn't just make this for fun. Well, it's always fun making things, but I do have a project in mind. So next week we're going to try using it. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more videos.